Hi! This guide will show you how to quickly install PteroCA, a client panel for Pterodactyl, using an automatic installation script. We'll start with a brief overview of the requirements and then move on to the actual installation. Before we begin, make sure you have a VPS or dedicated server running one of the supported Linux distributions. PteroCA works on Ubuntu, Debian, Rocky Linux, Alma Linux, and CentOS Stream. You'll also need a Pterodactyl panel that is already installed and working properly. Before we start the automatic installation, let's make sure we have the PteroCA plugin for Pterodactyl installed. It's required for some features in PteroCA to work. As shown on the screen, in the folder where Pterodactyl is installed, run the following command. Composer require PteroCA/Pterodactyl add-in. Now, just to be sure, you can run PHE Artisan Optimize :clear to clear the cache, and that's it. The plugin is now installed. Let's begin the installation. First, open the official PteroCA documentation and copy the command from the automatic installation section. Then, paste it into your terminal and press enter. This will start the installation script, which will ask you a few questions along the way. The installer now asks you to choose a PHP version. You can select PHP 8.2, 8.3, or the latest available, PHP 8.4. In this guide, I'll go with version PHP 8.4. Next, you'll be asked to enter the domain where your PteroCA panel will be available. You don't need to use a real or active domain here. Any valid format will work. The installer now asks if you want to generate an SSL certificate for your domain. This step only works if your domain is real and its DNS is already pointing to this server. If you're just testing locally or using a fake domain, it's best to skip this step and choose N. In this case, I'll skip it. The installer is now setting up all required components. This process may take a little while, depending on your server's performance and internet speed. Just let it run. Everything is handled automatically. In some cases, especially on newer versions of Ubuntu, the installer may pause and ask you to press enter. This usually happens when adding extra repositories, like the Universe component, which may require confirmation. If you see this message, just press enter to continue. At the end of the installation, you'll be asked to choose how you want to complete the initial configuration. You can either use the built-in web wizard, which is recommended, or continue in the terminal using the CLI. In this guide, I'll choose the web wizard option. The installation has completed successfully. The summary on the screen includes important details, such as your domain, PHP version, operating system, and full database credentials. It also shows the location of generated files, like the .env file and the MySQL root password. The next step is to complete the initial configuration using the web wizard. To do that, open your browser and go to the URL shown here. If your domain is not yet configured or doesn't point to this server, you can also use the direct IP address instead. And finally, keep in mind that your panel is currently running without SSL. For production use, it's strongly recommended to configure HTTPS for better security. After completing the installation, open the link shown in the terminal to access the PteroCA configurator. If everything was set up correctly, you should see this welcome screen, step 0 out of 5. This wizard will guide you through the initial setup of your panel. Here, you can choose the configurator language, and then click Start Configuration to continue. In Step 1, you'll configure the basic site settings. First, make sure the site URL is correct. This should be the address where your PteroCA panel will be accessible. You can change it if needed. Then, enter a title for your site. This name will appear in the panel and the Browser tab. Finally, choose the language for the client interface. Once you're done, click Next to continue to the next step. In Step 2, you'll connect PteroCA to your Pterodactyl panel using the API. Start by entering the URL of your Pterodactyl panel, followed by the Application API key. This key authorizes communication between PteroCA and your panel. After clicking Next, the connection will be validated. If everything is correct, you'll be taken to the next step. For help creating a proper API key, check the PteroCA or Pterodactyl documentation. Step 3 lets you configure the email settings for your panel. These details are used to send messages such as password resets, confirmations, or notifications. However, this step is optional. You can skip it for now and configure it later in the panel settings. In this tutorial, I'll skip this step and move on. In Step 4, you can configure the basic payment settings for your panel. If you're using Stripe, you can enter your secret key here, but this step is optional and can be completed later in the settings. Next, choose the currency in which payments will be made. Finally, define the internal currency name. This is the name your users will see when making purchases, for example, credits or coins. Once you're done, click Next to continue. In the final step, you'll create a new administrator account. This account will be created in both PteroCA and Pterodactyl, so you must use an email address that isn't already linked to any existing account. Enter your desired admin email and password, and make sure to remember these credentials. You'll use them to log in. Once you're ready, click Next to complete the setup. After completing the setup, you'll be redirected to the login screen. Simply enter the email and password you provided in the last step, then click Sign In. If everything was configured correctly, you should now see the main dashboard. And that means your PteroCA panel is up and running.